Hello and welcome to another Lord of the Rings Rise to War video. I'm the player who plays as the King Under the Mountain, or in this particular season, the Witch King of Grogmar. And today we're going to be doing my season update review. It is I have no idea, day 21, so we're exactly 3 weeks into the server. There has been plenty of fighting. We're going to go through all that. We're going to go through the map. We're going to go through the boards, particularly the merit board. Everyone loves that one. We're going to go through where we're currently fighting. We are going to go through how the formation's going. We're going to go through, hopefully, a couple of small side formations that we've looked at. Some of them unsuccessfully. Let's go that far. And we're going to talk through the future of this formation that I'm kind of working on. Whether I'm going to keep it or not, I don't know, but it's been fun to play Evil for a season. I'm intrigued by some of the results that I've got so far, and I do think I can still get it a little bit better. I'm unsure if it stacks up against the meta at this point. But we'll go through it, look at it. I'll show some losses, show some wins. Definitely some losses. And we'll kind of go from there. So we'll start with, let's go for, where do we go? Let's go for the leaderboards to start with. Always like those first. So if we're going for the top farmers of Middle-earth, somewhere where I'd normally see Mavius, to be honest, but he's not here right now, we have Dig Duck, then Raven, then The Beast in third. Very, very high resource base. If we keep flicking down, all these people have masses of resources. You'll see a general theme, to be honest, that most of them, taking out Raven aside, are from Erebor or from Gondor. And to be fair, that is because they've just had more land to be able to push into, and then they've also both pushed us back. So by us, I mean Arnor and also, of course, Angmar. And by pushing us back into this corner, they've kind of got more resources, really, to be honest. There is a guy from X-Hub in 30th, though, which I'm genuinely impressed with. So going through the top 50, there is plenty of those. There is a few of us. We're in 39th, so my resource base is still pretty good. Pretty untouched, really, considering what's going on. Mavius at 47th. That will be genuine tears for Mavius right there. And that kind of rules out the top 50. The merit board, as always, Raven is 1 million in front of everyone right now. And to be fair to him, he's not been hitting slouches. He's been hitting order and lame all season. He's been using tier 1 troops. He's been using some tier 2s. His Skull Helm is absolutely disgusting. And to be fair to him, he's done a lot of great work. In reply, Matix, who is Dumbo, obviously the leader of Order, has done really well too. His formation is disgusting. I've lost to it at least 5 times, I think, now. He rips through 2 or 3 armies every time he does. It's pretty impressive. And if you look through this sort of top 10, there is a lot of Order and lame. A little bit of Toby mixed in and a little bit of Step. But generally, and Merc as well, Silenef, who's been running this kind of Woes' bomb all seasons in at 10th. Aegon's got a really nice formation, which involves a Skullhelm. That kind of goes for a few people. Skullhelm's definitely the person to go for if you want to go through 2-3 armies if you're really high refine. So we find ourselves in 33rd. I'm okay with that, considering the size of this server and kind of like playing full Evil for the first time. I'm learning as I go along. Hopefully I'll get that up a little bit more. But there is some serious strength in Erebor right now, so that's kind of where we're at. You will see from the power rankings that it is kind of separated out a little bit now. So you have Bear at 3.8, Panda at 3.6. A lot of that is Arnor resource now. You have Lame and Order at 3.5 and 3.2 respectively in Erebor. Then you've got us, Toby, at 3.2 as well. You've got Step at 3, and then you kind of come down into the Arnor Kingdom, which, to be honest, has took a bit of a battering from a resource point of view, and we'll see that when we go to the map at 2.8 and 2.7. Fair play to them, though. They do keep fighting. And good on them, really, because I think, if we're being truthful, Gondor have really overpowered them. You either get into the sort of smaller fellowships of Beer, Iron, Laugh, or Weak and X-Hub, and even the one that's in Rohan, actually, and then into Mordor. All these smaller fellowships are just kind of just chilling out, really. There's not a great deal happening with them. Even Isegrim isn't doing a great deal at this point. As for faction points, we're currently sat in 8th. That's because Neveries has had a serious day on the merit board, to be fair to him, considering it was reset last night. We'll have a look at that in a minute. As for development levels, Gondor are way ahead. I would probably assume that's because they've took some keeps off Arnor, which is why they're down at 12. I guess you get some of the levels they've developed, I think is how it works. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And then commander-wise, you have quite a few people that are up near level 50 now. Raven has got all 50s on his main. There's a few at 49, quite a few at 48. We're kind of nestled into that 48 bracket with Saruman. It probably could have been a little bit higher, but I did drop him for a few fights just to see how a certain formation went, and I'll kind of show you that when I come along. I've managed to reinforce, which is nice. I assume I'm going to need to guard in a minute up here somewhere. Yeah, not looking great for Fort, I'll be honest. And we'll come into the map like that in a minute with where we're exactly fighting, but we'll go to the main overall map first. And we'll probably zoom out from that view, which has got where my forts are. So, let's go to the pins to start with. We have Loth, Order, and Orm over here 5 hours ago, which is interesting. Don't know what's going on over there. You have Toby, Lame, Order, Orm, and Step in the middle of Karok. Again, that is pretty much killing reinforcements, which is a pretty impressive pin for a reinforcement pin, really. What else we got? We've got a couple of small pins down here between Merc and Gods and Beer, Panda, and Bear. Beer on top of that pin, actually. Another small pin down here, which has got people on from Arnor and Erebor. Then you've got another pin here, which is only 5 hours old actually, in Isengard. And then you get into the slightly bigger pins. So you've got 2.5,984,000 dead here. These pins have been really big, to be honest. I think they were about 40 million for a while. So this one again is 24.7 and 9.4 million deaths. That's between Arnor and Gondor. Gondor have severely pushed Arnor in the end. Probably to a point, a breaking point, to be fair, but they do keep coming back and fighting, and you can only respect them for that, really. But they have lost Isengard in this kind of region here. Bear are now up into Dunland. I think they're supported by Panda up there. And it looks like they're at a pass around here, so I would assume they're going to carry on going into here. So Arnor's resource base is getting smaller. Obviously, they can't train as many troops, but to be fair to them, they are still trying, and that's a pretty impressive pin. Going into the Angmar and Erebor pins, you'll see here there is a 1 million pin with 310k there. You have a pin here that's 8.2 million and 3 million deaths in Eating Moors. So we'll go through that actually after going for the last pin. Then we have a 32 million pin at 11.6 million deaths in Angmar itself. Now, at the moment, no land has changed hands between these, but I can fundamentally say that Angmar, hands down, are being pummeled by Erebor at the moment. We've put up a great fight, I'm not going to lie, but there is definitely more strength in Erebor than there is in Angmar at this point. And they took both of these passes in the end. They pushed through. They are in Eaton Moors by the keep, but not really there. The main force is over here, and they are heading towards the capital, which is where I am currently fighting. So we'll just have a look at the centre, because the centre is open. Obviously, everyone took the central passes. Nothing else has really gone on in there. Gondor can enter from here. Arnor can come in from Durin's Vale, but again, they're going to have to clash with someone if they want to go completely centre. We secured one central pass for now, which is good. And then obviously Lame can come in from the top side here with Order as well from Erebor. So interesting map, and for day 21 it's been pretty spicy, to be honest. It's been a good server so far. There has been some complaints, and I think you're always going to get that, because I think different people's expectations of how this server was going to go will obviously dictate that. But this is kind of where we're currently at. It looks like they're going to go for the uproots on the bases here. So we were here a few hours ago, but to be fair to Lame and Order, when they do push, they push really strong. So yesterday we kind of pushed back to about here, but we never quite managed to build some fortresses. From that point onwards, they've really pressed us back, and they're now heading towards the capital up here, and it's going to be really difficult to reinforce soon, because you won't be able to get this side of the river very well. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. I probably will just stand on this base and just die gracefully, so I'll just kind of do that quick. So we'll just go bumbling on here and die gracefully. I guess the next thing to go into is probably the equipment changes, and then to show in the formation how they've done it. So I am still playing the full evil formation. I will see it through to the end of the season. I have enjoyed it. There are a few things that I would probably change if I could do them faster. I definitely want Saruman to have agility, because I think that's really important for what we're trying to do with this formation. Shadow, I'm pretty happy with where he's at with gear and his kind of skill order and things like that. Witch King I've been really impressed with spear throwers. I'd like to get snaggers on there, but I just simply can't afford at the moment. He's done great work with this gear, with 3 attack and 1 defense, and then 2 defensive sets. He keeps spear throwers alive really well. He does kind of between 60 and 80k a fight pretty much. But he's one of the last people to die as well, but he's still putting out damage, which is really impressive, and all that stuff before, like around the bleed, which is nice. But we've managed to make it now so the skill order goes off properly. So with the troops that I'm using, and we'll see that in the later fights that I'll show you, I've managed to get Sauron just slightly quicker than Witch King. So when I try and hit the double debuff, Sauron hits the percentage first. And because that'll be the highest number that we can take off. And then Witch King hits a flat reduction. And that has been causing quite a lot of problems for people like Saruman. Also really nice, and I've got a couple of reports sort of late on where I've changed that skill order and then it affecting Gandalf the White really heavily, and as well as Sauron as well. So I'll kind of show them at the same time. So we are working on those 4. I do think that Saruman has to be faster, and the reason for that is with fighting so many Bjorns and me now making Sauron quicker, potentially I'm no longer able to proc that madness on Bjorn at the end of round 3 for skin changer in round 4. So I've got to at least give myself a chance at that, in my opinion, and to do that is to give Saruman agility and allow him the opportunity in round 4 with his skills to try and inflict madness on Sauron. Not Sauron, sorry, on Bjorn. That also then impacts, so if I'm in front, I can then no longer get maddened by his Bjorn. If I do madden his Bjorn, there is more of his formation left behind, potentially, which can then be maddened. So it's just trying to play those percentages more than anything. So that's kind of the 4 that we've played. We did put Dane in a 3-1 formation with Witch King, Sauron, and Gandalf the White. It did not go well, so I kind of dropped that quite quickly. But these are the kind of current gear changes. So I've taken a little bit of focus off. The plan long term is to get a focus chest on and use this to agility. So we're quick, but we've got higher focus and we've got higher overall defense. So. And also command will just lose these, lose this defensive set. So we'll see how that goes. But that's kind of where we're going long term with the formation. Naturally, we are dead. Normally, this happens with this formation, like I've said to you before, and I'm okay with that. So resource wise, I'd say we've actually done all right here in the end because of taking out most of the trolls. It is a formation that's really susceptible because you're running smalls on quite a few. To Bjorn with even tier 2s, to be honest, if he's got the counter. I don't think this guy's a slouch, to be honest. Definitely not a slouch. So I'm not exactly displeased with that, but this is the kind of report that I'm talking about, whereby if I hit a genuine Kraken, but again, with my Dane formation, there is no guarantee I do any more than this. I do need to switch the troops to full evil because I'd like to take advantage of Black Captain. I just need to move a point round so that then it goes on all 4 formations. It'll help us strip that White Council a little bit faster. And also I think it will give us a little bit more speed because I'm probably going to put Marauders on Shadow. Fighting against Order in particular is really awkward because they do tend to use mounted on the DDs. And lame don't necessarily. So it just makes it harder to keep cranking out the cheap troops, really. But Berserkers are on Sauron, mainly due to the fact that they're slightly quicker, so it helps with that skill order. So if I have a look here, I'm pretty much sure that I won't be first here. So I did go first fair. So in this fight, my Sauron's gone first, does all the good stuff. and then Witch King comes in afterwards, and then further decreases. The only issue when Witch King hits 2 physicals is that the damage calculator doesn't really go the same way. So even at 150 attack, Bjorn's still going to do quite a lot of damage. Whereas if you can get Saruman below 140, 150, it kind of shuts him down quite a lot. So quite interesting. But again, Shadows here isn't going to matter too much because he'll build that straight back up with his own skills anyway. So awkward fight that, I would say, for this formation. But again, it's not disgraced itself. Yes, it's lost. Where is damage taken? So we did 277, but we actually got hit by 323. So we've been hit by quite a bit of madness. We've almost kept up with the damage formation of this, which I'm pretty happy with, to be honest, considering there's evade and a counter in there. If we'd have hit for the right amount of damage and not hit through madness, maybe we'd have got closer. So, and if that is a round 4 one, which I'll have a look. See, again, this round 4 is where we've lost the fight. There is a high potential, I would assume, that Saruman's either decided to blow myself up or not do anything. Yeah, so he's not done anything in that round. Is he stunned? So we've pushed that down the line. He pretty much just about lives in there, but only just around 5. So if we'd have got that damage off, I'd have to look through the fight to see what round the actual madness came off. But we're actually ahead in the fight at this point. Round 3 we get pretty much level, and round 4 we get blown away, which sometimes happens if you've got a Bjorn with this kind of action going on, to be perfectly honest, where you've got the counter. So I'm okay with that. And like I say, I'm just going to show you some reports. So it looks like we're going to try and take out my fort. Kyle loves to try and fight me, bless him, every time he can. And he's also good to fight, to be fair. Really cool formation, troop damage, really good fun. So let's have a look through some of these reports, because I think there's quite a few, and I'm trying to keep this video vaguely lighter. I would like to showcase, in the next couple of days, I think I'll do it. I was working on a more troop damage formation, and I'll probably talk through it, but I'll sort of show some reports against mobs, really, ideally, probably to start with, and then go from there. So the first report on here is, of course, Kyle. We're using all smalls, so is he. Woodmen are so OP, by the way. Like, the skills that they have in regards to, most armies have dwarves, so again, this is great. But this evade, having like a 20 to 30% chance, depending on whether you're on wood or not, just as a troop skill, is crazy, really. So the amount of attacks that they avoid is pretty scandalous. I was pretty happy with this. Obviously, there's tier 4 in there and lots of tier 3, so this was after I found that I needed the HP pool from Guardians to actually survive in these fights. And we've been severely outdamaged, but because of the type of troops that we're using, we've stayed in the fight. So it's a misleading health bar, but I'm okay with this with tier 4 on there, to be honest. We then move into Loopy, and Loopy is another big account. We did really well here, to be honest. Again, running all smalls, hitting into the counter in a couple of cases. You know, Loopy's account's not small. Z12, Sauron, R13 Bjorn with really good gear. We then have a Z1 Gandalf the White, and we have a Z4 Saruman 4 Refined. So, you know, I'm pretty happy with that. And what I like about this is when one of the DDs kind of fails a little bit, generally Witch King picks up the slack, which is quite nice. But he really does keep them alive. So then, of course, Price hits me and it goes back to normal. But Price's account is a lot bigger than mine, to be fair. And again, resource-wise, it's probably not actually that dissimilar due to the trolls. But when I run into a counter like this, I've got no hope with this formation. The fact that it actually does as well as it does against this formation, I'm pretty happy with, to be honest. My old main would have got absolutely stomped by that. So I'm okay with that, really. And you're losing to 2-6, fair. So I'd rather put some losses in here as well, so people don't just go out and just go, oh, this formation's great, because it's okay. It works. It has a function. It's pretty cool. Comparing it to some other our Krakens that have been running around, it's actually done really well. And we think that's probably because against things like Woodmen, pretty much all the damage here is coming from burst attacks, apart from a couple of big nukes from Saruman. So if the Woodman's evading one of those attacks, it's not the end of the world because the damage is a lot more gradual. I'm not saying it counts as Woodman in any way because it doesn't, but it does do a fairly decent job at least hitting a static amount of damage, and it is pretty consistent, to be honest. And the fact that I'm sort of in the 30s in this server with this, I'm pretty happy with. So it's actually been really fun to play as well because you kind of learn different things as you go along. So again, anything that's slightly off meta, we do pretty well. And yeah, I am calling Galadriel off meta because she is, and I still don't really like her, but people do, so whatever. You know, decent Galadriel. 4 refine, R10, Saruman, full agility, to be fair. Bjorn was the only man left standing, or monster, whichever way you want to look at it, Z1. And then Gandalf the White at Z6. So this formation can do good work. It's just when it walks into a counter, it's got real issues. Again, okay with this, fighting against tier 4, we haven't really had chance to sort of train a tier 4 this season yet. Far bigger account than mine. And again, we've kind of come out okay, I would say, from that. But your Witch King tends not to die. Mainly because I think no one fights with Eowyn, but there you go. So then we had Sleepy. Sleepy has got revenge since then, to be perfectly honest. Again, Spearthrower is great damage. Great work by my 2 DDs. Sauron chipping in with his Guardians. Great. Sleepy's formation is pretty tasty, to be fair. The thing about hitting lame and order is that you don't really get too many freebies. So pretty much every fight's a heavy hit. So to try and get into that top merit board, you've got to keep cranking out the troops. Again, you see this consistent kind of damage profile. This is a really nice one, actually, because no one even died during this fight. So, again, Huey's solid. One of Donald's sons. Not as solid as Dewey, to be fair, but definitely solid. So, again, good result. I'm pretty happy about that. We hit Thumper. Thumper's got 2 great formations. I mean, the Disney theme does make me chuckle because I never thought I'd say in my life, we hit Thumper, but there you go. So, tier 4, again, we haven't really had a chance to train it. They do love Rangers of the North, to be fair. Thumper's got 2 great formations. I didn't think I'd be saying that today either, but there you go. And we've done okay here. This is with the old gear. I think we switch over to the new gear fairly soon. Again, Colt Bronco. Decent formation, good damage by us again. You know, Witch King hitting consistently with the troop damage. I'm looking forward to running full Black Captain at some stage. I've just got to be brave enough to not train dwarves. Again, Gandalf Skywalker, massive account, loads of tier 4, Woodsmen, Trolls. We've done really well against that as well. So I can't really complain about this formation. Don't get me wrong, it loses sometimes, as all formations do, but it's pretty consistent. And if it's going to lose by 2 or 3k, there tends to be a fairly decent reason for it, like you've walked into a counter and Bjorn's completely massacred you, that kind of stuff. But Sherman's account's huge as well. So I was pretty happy with that one. We've got Kyle in here again. Beating Kyle, this never happens, but I'm pretty happy about that. I'm fairly sure 2 fights later though he absolutely ripped me apart, so I can't celebrate too much, but good to see you as always, Kyle. Again, you know, tidy result really from us. I think we went through one day where we got some really bad RNG, but generally good result. We got Burn or Bernie here from Order as well, because we were kind of fighting lame really more than Order for a long time. And then, or as I like to call him, the Lord of the Rings. That's a grog comment right there. But yeah, again, nice formation. Switching Saruman to sort of the Bow Knights as I used to do was probably a good move. Do need to work out what I do with troops though to get the sort of double strike in there. So again, Gandalf Skywalker. This is his Gil formation. A little bit of purple gear knocking around, but you know, great beast, gears in the right place. Pretty happy with that as well. And the damage output across the 3 is good. I think this is where we start getting into the more modern fights now. Is this where I've changed my gear? Still working on the old gear at the moment. So we then hit Snow White. Don't come and attack me, the dwarves. Again, solid result because this is a solid formation. I really like the fact that these guys always seem to survive. Then we hit Nalani, and I think this is one of those reports that I was talking about. So in this report, we actually hit Saruman with both debuffs. So Witch King hit with his debuff, Sauron hit with his debuff, and we kind of took down that damage. And this is a decent formation from Nalani again. Really solid. I'd really like a full refined Palantir. I have actually got some Maven saved for the next chapter, but it's not coming fast enough for me. We lost to Shere Khan, and again, I would expect this walking into a counter, but Bjorn tore me apart anyway, one way or another. Mainly, I would suggest, because we'd started trying to use tier 2 trolls. This kind of worked, didn't always work, so I sort of dropped them because they're quite expensive. I have got 600 of them left, but I think I'm just going to turn them into mountain trolls, to be honest. Madness immune. Interesting choice of cask for Bjorn. Bear in mind he's madness immune from round 4 anyway. I assume that's on there so he doesn't blow himself up in round 4 itself, which is pretty clever actually, to be fair. So that's Shere Khan. Really nice formation. I don't know if I pressed Saruman or not then. Z1 as well, casual. Casual Z1. There's a lot of Z's in this. There's a lot of money in this server, to be fair. Then we fought Simba. We kind of went through the Lion King stage, apparently. And again, I was pretty happy with this. I mean, decent sized account, hitting completely into the counter, and we've not lost by a great deal. The damage output from this formation is pretty good. Again, Donald Duck consistently. We beat Donald Duck again. Bernie again, beat Bernie again. And then this was a really nice result versus Elazar. This is like a proper kind of whooping moment where you get excited. One that I'd like to put on the fridge, I would say. But yeah, this was a nice result. When you run into sort of 2.8k, 2.9k, you've done all right when you're hitting into the counter, really. But I had to go back to using all smalls at this point just because we weren't able to train anything else, really. Edna mode. I have no idea what that name means, but there you go. Again, decent formation. This is where we changed. So we actually changed to a 3-in-1 formation for a little while. I didn't like it. But if you're going to play a 3-in-1 formation with 3 supports and 1 DD, you really need Evasion and White Council, because White Council just wasn't cutting it. And even though it does okay here, when you look into it, Dane's taking hits without White Council by the end of round 1, so you kind of really need that. This is where I'm just going to show a few fights with the White Council example. I'm actually going to show this a fight versus DP first, because you should never end your reports on a loss, right? So this is about 20 minutes ago, got absolutely whacked. He is using 2 sets of tier 4, to be fair, and Woodmen. I mean, it's a bit of a outrageous combo, shall we say, that we can afford over in lame at the moment, but there you go. But we got absolutely plastered. It's a great formation, to be fair, and he's a good guy. I know we may have teased things in the past, but he's a good guy. He's DP. So there you go. So DP absolutely flattened me, but I just kind of wanted to talk through these. So in both of these fights, whereby this formation it's not a slouch formation. There's a couple of people in there with a counter on me. He's running Woses on Bjorn. We did really well here. Mainly, I would suggest, because if you look at the damage per round, we're taking chunks out early. And then we continue to do so beyond that when we take out a couple of commanders. But with not having White Council ourselves, one of the great benefits of this formation is that sometimes I will hit both. So Sauron goes first now because I've changed his gear around, so he's acting before the Witch King. His debuff takes down... where is Gandalf the White? So he takes a big chunk off Gandalf the White, and then Witch King also takes a giant chunk off Gandalf the White. It helps if I'm looking in deployment and not looking in like round 5 or something ridiculous. So back to where we were. Gandalf the White gets reduced by my Sauron. Then the Witch King hits Gandalf the White, so his focus is down to 160. So he starts hitting a White Council that's only 50%, so we can do that early damage. We're stripping it anyway, but we can still do that early damage at the same time. Really nice way of running this formation that way around, because you get a bigger debuff. You get the percentage come off the higher number, which is obviously a higher number, and then you hit with the Witch King's flat debuff. And if you hit White Council, the next fight, for example, against Edna, we managed to take this White Council down to, I think it's about 140, so it comes out about 48%. I'll just check it out, because I think it might be this fight that's at 48%. I'll just check. So let's see where someone gets hit. 52.1%, so it must be the last one, I think. But yeah, 52% we've come down to, which would have been a better White Council than that. Not sure if we did this one with Mr. Smackfinity. However, really nice result for us. But we've hit it in the right order. It really works. So we've got our Sauron acting first now, which is nice. He has hit Gandalf the White here. So his focus goes down to 135 after the 2 debuffs. I think it's this fight, to be fair. So if I have a look here, when we're hitting White Council, wherever White Council may be, I presume I'll have to look in here somewhere. Finding White Council to actually see what's occurring is actually, there you go, 45%. So we've managed to take White Council down significantly, so we can start dealing damage a lot earlier. Really nice thing about this formation, and definitely something that I've enjoyed playing with it. Now my fort is getting pinned here. A new Kyle would definitely go for it. However, I can reinforce from my fort, so I'm actually going to do that, and I'm going to sit there and wait for someone to hit me, hopefully with siege, and be a horrible person. So that's kind of the plan there. That's kind of everything I wanted to go through in this video. I will allude to the next formation that I'm just testing out in the background, really. We're running a Gothmog, Thorin, then it gets a bit more tricky, so we're running Azrakor, and then we were looking at Gorbag and trying to buff orcs and things like that and trying to use spear throwers. But it may have to be something like a Gandalf the Grey for some protection in there while also still getting the double strike. So we're trying to go into some sort of hybrid troop formation, which against mobs has been pretty fun. And I'm going to try and do a separate video on that, to be fair. But interesting how that hits. I did actually hit some pass armies, and I think as recorded about 120k on one of them. So I'm going to kind of go into that theory crafting at some point in a separate video for now, because this one's getting pretty long. But yeah, I'm hoping to work on a kind of fairly basic troop comp at some stage in the very near future. But at this point, that's all I've got time for. We will have to go back to fighting. As you can see, Layman Order or Lord of the Rings are definitely moving forward. Bases are disappearing now, so I'm hoping people are actually moving, considering they've had 7 or 8 days to move. So who knows? Maybe, maybe not. But as always, if in doubt, always follow your nose.